the two teachers. Welcome to Strangest Things.
Timeless talk about today's topics.
Here's a strange thing. Andy, how can a unified government not get their legislation passed? Just doesn't seem right. Strange.
It's strange, but Dan, I would argue that's how the system was set up with the separation of powers. Remember, this was a group of founders who were suspicious of centralized power coming from Great Britain and their unified parliament and their king. And so the whole Constitution is set up in large part so that things don't get done or that it's really slow to get done.
Let's just be reminded, friends, that a unified government means that the president and Congress, and in some cases even the Supreme Court, are controlled by the same political party or ideology. We have unified government today, and they just can't get anything passed significantly. That's strange. What, parties are weak?
Well, parties are weak. We know that particularly with primary elections in the different states, the role of party leaders is particularly weak. So a lot of times when representatives and senators are casting those crucial votes on either side, they're actually thinking about those primary elections and whether they might be challenged by someone who's even more liberal on the Democratic side or more conservative on the Republican side in a party primary.
And I guess another explanation would be some institutional reasons, like we have a system of pluralism, competing groups, interest groups come into play with different constituencies in the Congress, access points. But Andy, those rules of the Senate also have something to say about this.
Well, those rules of the Senate in large part say that in order to pass major legislation, that you need a supermajority, that you need at least 60 senators to close debate, to kill that filibuster. In many cases, though, we're seeing that both the Democrats and Republicans are relying on different processes in the U.S. Senate where you would only need 50 or 51 senators, 50 senators if in fact your party controls the vice president and can break a tie.
Certainly unified governments are also helped by presidential leadership, and we can debate that for another episode of The Strangest Things.
But we see also that one of the factors in the United States that a lot of countries don't have in this process is federalism. And the reality is that because states play such a crucial role in policymaking, even on something like national health care, that if a state governor or if a policy is going to hurt the citizens back in a particular state, that might change an individual legislator's opinion from where their party might be headed because of that federalism component.
Andy, remember, friends don't lie. And frankly, I have a truth ache. Can somebody tell me, can a president pardon himself?
The strangest thing, Dan, because certainly there's nothing in the Constitution that really restricts a president's pardon power.
Article 2
outside of
outlines the pardon power.
That pardons deal with federal law. So presidents are not pardoning people who are in violation of state or local laws. And also that the president can't use that pardon power in impeachable offenses.
Andy, we do know that Richard Nixon was considering the act of pardoning himself. Remember, he resigned, and then Gerald Ford pardoned him later. It was the buzz back in the 1970s, and people are talking about it again.
But here's a classic example where, yes, we've had a constitution for more than 200 years, and just when you think the courts have addressed it all, here we go into a really murky area and a tough constitutional question.
And
can the president pardon himself?
We do know that at the Constitutional Convention, this very topic was debated. And the catch-all for them was, listen, we want the president to have the pardon power. If he uses it unwisely, the Congress can use the impeachment power.
Right, and we also have conflicting memos over the years, some of them coming from the Watergate days, in questions about can the president act as his own judge in issues of possibly pardoning himself.
Andy, it's time to walk through the curiosity door. It's time to answer some of your questions. Keep those questions coming in at citizenu.org. Today we have a question from Mr. Yorinaga from West York, area high school in Pennsylvania. He has a great question this week, and it's this. Andy, how can a state that voted for a Democratic candidate have such a majority Republican congressional delegation in Congress? Andy, so like the state of Virginia.
The strangest thing.
Virginia has 2 Democratic senators, a Democratic governor, but 7 out of the 11 members of Congress are from Republican districts. How does that happen?
Well, one of the ways it happens is with midterm elections. Remember, in a presidential election, we typically have a much higher voter turnout rate in all the different states. And so those voters who might not come out in the midterm elections, they're coming out to vote in a presidential election. And we see that, actually quite a bit, where the reflection of a lot of voters in a presidential election might be different from the choices that lower voter turnout midterm election are making.
Well, let's not give the state of Virginia an excuse on this, though, Andy. Let's not forget about gerrymandering, that political skullduggery event where representatives from a state draw the congressional district lines to favor one party over another. And the Republicans in Virginia have been able to master this idea, and they've drawn themselves Republican majorities. Even the Supreme Court has had something to say about it.
And the Supreme Court has told Virginia and other states that when it comes to gerrymandering based on racial demographics, that it is unconstitutional to essentially to concentrate too many African Americans or ethnic minorities into a particular district to the advantage of the Republican Party.
Andy, this has been another episode of Strangest Things.
We're the 2 teachers.
No fancy words, no fancy suits, plain talk about issues you need to know.
Just in time.